Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color today?
Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?
It will be an honor, sir.
It's always Christmas! Ho, ho, ho!
No matter what hour your clock strikes, here, it's always Christmas! And I'm always your holly jolly host, Luce Tomlin Brenner. So, where did Christmas come from anyways? Today, we're going to dive into a brief history of America's favorite holiday. Then, we're going to take a couple of calls from the Hot Chocolate Hotline, and at the end, we're going to read an ELFmail. But first, did you know the word Christmas comes from the Old English Christis Masse, which means Christ's Mass? In the Christian religion, December 25th is thought of as the birth date of Jesus Christ. Despite this belief, Christmas has become fairly secular and is celebrated worldwide by people of different religious backgrounds. Some fight to, quote, keep the Christ in Christmas, so to speak, but others argue that its origins are in pagan traditions. Let's hop in our sleigh and steer our reindeer back to Roman antiquity to discover the truth. The story of Jesus Christ's birth is told in the New Testament's Gospel of St. Luke and St. Matthew in the Christian Bible. The precise origin of December 25th as the birth date of Jesus is unclear. The New Testament provides no clues in this regard. December 25th was first identified as the date of Jesus' birth by Sextus Julius Africanus in 221 CE, and eventually this became the universally accepted date. Some Christians celebrate Jesus Christ's coming on January 6th. That's called the Epiphany. That's when they believe he was baptized. The song, The 12 Days of Christmas, refers to the 12 days between Christmas and the Epiphany. The early Christian community distinguished between the identification of the date of Jesus' birth and the liturgical celebration of that event. During the first 2 centuries of Christianity, there was strong opposition to recognizing birthdays of martyrs, or, for that matter, Jesus. Numerous church fathers offered sarcastic comments about the pagan custom of celebrating birthdays, when, in fact, saints and martyrs should be honored on the days of their martyrdom, their true birthdays from the church's perspective. So, what do we mean when we say pagan? This is a sweeping term that encompasses anyone from the Romans to the Norse in Scandinavia. As Christianity spread through Europe in the early Common Era, missionaries interacted with lots of different people who all had varying religious beliefs. All of these people and religions were lumped into the catch-all term of pagan. The current dominant belief may be that Christmas is solely a Christian holiday, but the truth is, it's actually inspired by traditions from the early Romans, Celts, Norse, and more, all of whom were considered pagans. The winter solstice, December 21st, was a huge part of pagan life. Winter marked the end of the year's harvest, meaning one could rest from toiling in the fields all day and finally enjoy some quality time with family and friends. Winter in the Northern Hemisphere is a cold, dark, and uncertain time, and the solstice was celebrated to help keep people entertained and make sure they enjoyed themselves until the sun rolled around again. Feasting, decorating their homes with greenery, and singing songs were popular during solstice celebrations, which certainly inspired our modern Christmas traditions. During the 17th and 24th of the month, ancient Romans also celebrated Saturnalia. This was a pagan holiday in honor of the agricultural god Saturn. Romans would spend the week of Saturnalia much like how we spend Christmas holidays today, eating, drinking, and being joyful. Romans also hung small metal ornaments on trees outside their homes. Each of these little ornaments represented a god, either Saturn or the family's personal patron saint. Early Germanic tribes practiced a similar tree decorating tradition, using fruits and candles to honor their gods throughout the winter solstice. Modern Christmas tree decorating seems to be a combo of these two tree trimming traditions. Another overlap Christmas has with Saturnalia is that the Romans exchanged small gifts for luck, hoping that their generosity to each other would bring in a bountiful harvest the next year. The practice of Christians giving gifts at Christmas goes back to the 15th century and contributed to the view that Christmas was a secular holiday focused on family and friends. This was one reason why Puritans in Old and New England opposed the celebration of Christmas. They even succeeded in banning its observance in both countries. Banning gifts? What would Santa Claus say? But wait, who even is Santa Claus? America's supernatural Santa creature was generally depicted as an elf until 1931, when the company Coca-Cola started portraying him in advertisements as human-sized. But the idea of an old man giving gifts to children can be traced back again to antiquity and a bearded saint named Nicholas. But even before St. Nicholas, there was a deity named Odin. Odin was worshipped by early Germanic pagan tribes in BCE and was traditionally portrayed as an old man with a long white beard and an 8-legged horse who he would ride through the skies. Later, those 8 horse legs would turn into 8 little reindeer. During the winter, kids would fill their booties with carrots and straw and leave them by the chimney for the horse to feed on. Odin would fly by and reward the children with little presents in their booties, much like we do with Christmas stockings today. Now, let's revisit the Christian saint. Saint Nicholas lived as a bishop during the 4th century CE in Anatolia, a large peninsula in Western Asia, which is mostly Turkey today. He was known for giving gifts to the poor, and after his death, became the patron saint of children, the poor, and sex workers. In his honor, the feast of St. Nicholas was marked on December 6th, and gifts were given the night before. This tradition was well established in many European countries by the 12th century. Because of their proximity, St. Nicholas's Day and Christmas Day traditions eventually became enmeshed. St. Nicholas took on different personas in different countries. For example, the Netherlands have Sinterklaas. Great Britain has Father Christmas. Père Noël gives gifts in France. And in Germany, St. Nicholas has many names, including Klaasper, Berkelas, Rocklas, Burlacross, and Sinterklaas, although Father Christmas is becoming more popular there as well. In the United States, the Dutch settlers Sinterklaas evolved into Santa Claus. But let's not forget about Rudolph. Where did he come from? Well, he didn't become Santa's 9th reindeer until 1939, when he was created by an ancient god, advertising agency, for the department store Montgomery Ward. Christmas too commercialized? Nah. Now let's take a call from the Hot Chocolate Hotline. And I'm going to say this right now, this one is a little spicy.
Hi, Luce. My name's Eric. First, I just want to say thank you so much for all the work you do on It's Always Christmas. I've been a long-time fan, and it's just such a great thing, to bring together so many people who are so passionate about Christmas and who truly think that every day should be Christmas, right? I mean, if we had the option. But anyway, I've never called in before, but the craziest thing happened to me last night, and I knew that you and the other fans of It's Always Christmas would be the perfect people, would be like the most appreciative of this story. Okay, it's kind of wild. I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus underneath the mistletoe last night. She didn't see me creep down the stairs to have a peep. She thought that I was tucked up in my bedroom, fast asleep. And look, I'm an adult. I still live at home, right? But not for long. And I love my mom. You know, she's a single mom. She works really, really hard. So honestly, I was really happy for her. You know, kind of getting back out there. But then I saw Mommy tickle Santa Claus underneath his beard, so snowy white. Oh, what a laugh it would have been if Daddy had only seen Mommy kissing Santa Claus last night. Honestly, he would have loved it. Like, you know, he and my mom were very open. They were all like, you know, they grew up in like the free love movement. They were very open and into like sort of non-conventional, non-monogamous relationships. He would, you know, he'd be really happy if he saw her kind of like, I think, finding that kind of joy with somebody else. But the story got even crazier, right? Because then I went to my brothers. I have 6 brothers, and they didn't believe that I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus. And I said, I really did see Mommy kissing Santa Claus. You gotta believe me. You gotta believe me. Come on, fellas. You gotta believe me. You just gotta believe me. Come on. You gotta believe me. But they wouldn't believe me. Because they don't believe in Santa Claus. So, but you know who I knew did believe in Santa Claus? You and all the other listeners of It's Always Christmas. So I thought I'd call in and I thought I'd tell my story. Probably won't even get on. But again, thank you so much for all the work you do on the podcast. That's my story. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have a new dad soon. Who knows? All right.
Wow, Eric, I just have to commend you and your family for being so open-minded. And I love that this experience seems to have deepened your relationship with both your mom and Santa. I really hope your siblings come around because they are missing out on a lot of magic. Your mom knows what I'm talking about. Anyways, I'm so happy that you called in, and I really love your energy, and I'm just totally obsessed with this titillating tale. And you're right, Eric. We believe in Santa here at It's Always Christmas. And you know what? We also believe in supporting adults in whatever consenting relationships they want to engage in. That's just who we are. Thanks again so much for calling in. So happy to hear that you love the show, and I cannot wait to hear another terrific story from you. So feel free to call back anytime. All right, up next, we've got a call from one of our Yule Gang members, a familiar voice that you know and love. Take it away, Elisa.
Hey, Lucy, it's Elisa again, and I'm just calling in to share a favorite Christmas food and memory. I'll start with a memory, which is that maybe like 15 years ago, my roommate and my brother and I decided to go to Union Square Park. We used to live in New York City at the time, and go caroling. So my brother's a violinist, so he played violin, and my roommate Julianne and I sang carols in harmony, and it was very cute and snowing. And I don't know, we were out there for maybe like an hour, and we made $1.50. So we decided to go to Gray's Papaya and split one hot dog between the three of us. And my favorite Christmas food is, well, yeah. So coming from a half Jewish family, the Chinese food Christmas connection is very strong. So what I like to do for Christmas Eve dinner is get some Chinese food and get the almond cookies. And then I'll make a tea it's just boiling cinnamon sticks for maybe 40 minutes. And it makes just like a delicious, rich cinnamon flavor that you don't even need to add sugar to. But the almond cookies they're so beautiful when you dip them in the tea. It is the flavor of Christmas. Also, I just wanted to make a suggestion for something that we could call the listeners. I know there's been many suggestions, but how about Lucerne deer? Does that work for you? All right. Well, keep up the great work and Merry Christmas.
Elisa, I just adore that you went caroling in New York City. That is so Christmassy. It is giving me major Home Alone 2 vibes, one of my favorite movies, and I don't want to argue about it. It's just as good as the first one. Anyways, back to caroling. My mom has gotten really into the idea of us caroling as adults when I go home to Ohio for Christmas. And it's like every year I go home, she's like, let's go around our neighborhood and like entertain our neighbors. And I just cannot bring myself to do it. Typically I am up for anything. Nothing really embarrasses me, but there's something about the like sincerity of caroling in a suburb in the 2020s that is just too cringe for me. I can't do it. But that being said, I used to carol at the old folks' home with my Girl Scout troop as a little girl, and I did love doing that. And I got a couple of really cute patches for my Girl Scout sash as well. I would love to hear if any of the listeners have caroled before, or if you think it's like a fun idea and you want to try it, or if it's too cringy, let me know. And Elisa, thank you for this incredible cinnamon tea recipe. Maybe I'm a little daft, but I never considered that I could just, boil cinnamon rods and have that would taste good. So thank you for that hot tip. I really want to make that tonight, honestly. And since it's always Christmas, there's nothing stopping me. Finally, I love the idea of calling our listeners Lucerne deer, even though it does sound a little like I'm calling you all insane deer. But reindeer, Lucerne deer, I think it's really fun. So that's very clever. What do you think, my little Lucerne deers? Does that name make you want to soar through the night sky? Does it make you want to drop presents off to all the little children around the world? Let us know. Call in to the Hot Chocolate Hotline. We want to hear from you. Thanks again, Elisa. You never let us down. You always call in with the best tips and stories. So Merry Christmas, and let's hear from our next caller.
Hi, Luce. My name's Eric. Big fan of the show. I've been listening for the last 3 years. And I just had a couple questions about your personal Christmas favorites. I was wondering, I love Christmas tree ornaments. And I was wondering what your favorite type of ornament is. And if you have a particular kind of genre of ornament that you like, because there's the decorative, purely decorative ornaments, but then there's also, sentimental ornaments, and things like that. So, that's question number one. Question number two, where do you fall on Christmas lights? And how many lights is too many lights? Do we like big light shows? Do we think that Christmas lights should be tasteful, or does it go house by house? I always remember that there was a few houses in my neighborhood that really went for it, and it was a really fun thing, I think, to add to the neighborhood. But would love to hear your hot take on that. Yeah, and that's it. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas, because it's every day. And thanks again for all the work you've put into making such an incredible show and a place for all of us who love Christmas so much. All right, take care.
Wow. Okay. Yes. Is this the same Eric as before? I sounded similar, but sounded like you were a new person calling at the same time. I don't want to assume. It's totally okay if this is the same person. It's always great to hear from all of my Lucerne deer. You don't have to separate your calls. You can leave a longer message. It's totally fine. There's no reason to be self-conscious about a long message. You can also hold on to your stories for a couple weeks and, intersperse them. You don't have to call all at once. But listen, I really loved your questions, and I am excited to dive into them. And listen, I'm just really happy that you love the podcast. So let's not dawdle anymore. I want to get into these awesome questions. I believe staunchly in sentimental ornaments. I will not waver on this point. I have been collecting Christmas ornaments since I was born, practically. And people would give my parents those like baby's first Christmas, those little glass balls. And then I don't know how old I was. I was really young, probably like 4 or 5, maybe 6. And I asked my parents if I could have my own little mini tree to put some of my ornaments on. And my parents got me this really cute little like 2 to 3 foot fake tree that I got to keep in my bedroom. And ever since then, I've collected ornaments, and I've everywhere I go, anytime I travel, I pick up an ornament. Yeah, family and friends, we always exchange ornaments. So I have a few ornaments from like every year of my life, and it makes me feel really close to them. Like, I don't get to go home for Christmas every year. I live in Los Angeles, and so it's really nice to like have the Christmas tree up and look at ornaments that my family and friends have given me over the last 30 years of my life. And it's nice. I feel that connection. I think Christmas is all about community and, your loved ones and generosity. And I just feel like really close to my loved ones when I have their ornaments in my tree. That being said, I also have some of my grandparents' ornaments. So these vintage ornaments that I really, really love. So listen, I'm just extremely against purely decorative trees. I mean, let me know what you think, Lucene dear. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm willing to grow on this point. But I gotta say, purely decorated trees where people just go out to Target and get the whatever balls and put them on the tree, it just has no personality. It's totally soulless to me. Like, what's the point? Why even do it at that point? And I will acquiesce a little bit if the tree has entirely vintage glass ornaments and they're going for like a cool vintage look, and I don't know, everything sort of goes together, because then you're sort of honoring like the memories of Christmas past. But just like going and buying a bunch of random ornaments at the store, like, why? What's the point even? As far as outside decor goes, I will say the bigger and the more garish, the better. Christmas is a holiday of excess, and there's no reason to be shy about it. I really, really, really love it. My favorite Christmas decorations, and I've never had any, but I dream of owning a house one day or renting a house and being able to get those blow molds of like vintage Santa Frosty and those like giant red candles. I think they're so cool. And I love when I see a yard that's like filled with those vintage blow molds. And I love Christmas lights with like the really big bulbs. I love blinking lights. I love a bunch of different lights interspersed, like really chaotically. Like maybe the roof has white lights and the bushes have purple lights, and then there's like rainbow lights around the railings, and then the trees are blinking, and then there's icicle lights. Like, what it just is like impossible to figure out the homeowner's vision. I'm obsessed. Like, it's just is like chaotic Christmas, and I'm here for it because that's truly how the holidays feel. Oh, you know what else I love? A house that times their lights with music. Absolutely unhinged. So great. I mean, honestly, what is more fun at Christmas than driving around and looking at Christmas yard displays? It's like legit one of my favorite activities to do all year long, and I wait for it all year long. So listen, don't let me down, America. Go big or get coal. I would love to hear what all my Lucene deer prefer, though. And I, again, promise to stay open-minded on this point. Even though I said I would not budge, I will have an open mind. All right, let us hear from our next caller. Again, thank you so much, Eric. Looking forward to hearing from you again in the future. Feel free to space it out a little bit. All right, next caller.
Christmas 2016, I was home and my older sister was home, and our like whole family was in a dumb fight about something. And so my sister and I were like, let's just go to the movies, because like we always go to the movies on Christmas. But for whatever reason, there were like no movies playing at the time. We just wanted to get out of the house. And so we ended up seeing the movie Passengers with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence. And I can say it did not make my Christmas any merrier, and it is truly one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And honestly, like one of the worst Christmas movies. Don't know why they released it at Christmas. But yeah, that was it. All right.
Oh my goodness, caller, that is hilarious. Every movie that's at a theater around Christmas should have to have like some light Christmas theme in it at the very least, because watching some poorly constructed sci-fi movie on Christmas is the absolute worst. Passengers, not a good movie. It's just not holly jolly. It's like pretty depressing, especially if you're already kind of having a difficult Christmas. Like, that's not going to cheer you up. And if you hear a little bit of bitterness in my voice, it's because I can relate. In 2007, I was working 60 to 70 hours a week on a campaign in Iowa. We didn't have any days off except for Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. It was so insanely grueling, but I was in my early 20s, so I thought it was an adventure. So on Christmas Day, I was alone, and I wanted to do something Christmassy and get some sort of, experience, make the day special in some way. So I went to the movies because that's something that I do with my family and my friends every year. Whoever I'm with, we always go to the movies on Christmas Day. So I was like, I'll take myself to the movies. I hadn't seen a movie since I went to Iowa to work because we didn't have any days off. And normally in the before times, I go to the movies like 1, 2, 3 times a week sometimes. So not seeing a movie for months back then was like devastating to me. Fast forward to now, not seeing a movie in the theater for a year, and my brain feels like it's melting. But anyhoozle. So I hadn't been to the movie theater in months, and I was like, I'm going to the movies on Christmas Day. This will save Christmas. But the town that I was living in was so super duper small. They only had one movie theater, and it was a single screen movie theater. And the only movie it was playing was Will Smith's I Am Legend. Not a good movie. Definitely made a bad Christmas worse. So I can totally identify with you. Passengers is such a bummer to watch on Christmas. I Am Legend is not a good Christmas movie. I would love to hear from the other Lucerne Deers about what movies they went to see on Christmas or around Christmas that did not improve their holidays. What movies did you watch that are not on your Christmas list and that you never want to see again and that you have like upset feelings towards? All right. Thank you so much, caller. This year, make sure that you're only watching Home Alone and Home Alone 2, Lost in New York over and over again. The most perfect Christmas movies ever made. All right. Let us take another call.
Hi, I just want to leave my wildest Christmas memory. So when I was in 3rd grade, it was 1993. And my dad had a coworker who was going away to visit her family for the holidays. And she asked if I was 8 years old at the time, and she asked if I would be willing to babysit her bird, Otis. And I was so excited. I was like, I really wanted to be a babysitter. There were no kids in my neighborhood. So this was my big moment, my big chance. And just what a fun, fantastic Christmas holiday this was going to be for me, making money because she was going to pay me $50. And we had this gigantic Rottweiler dog at the time, and his name was Taz because it was 1993. What else was I going to name him? And he was huge. He came from this really sketchy manure farm in Pennsylvania, and he was just a bizarre, gigantic dog. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there playing Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis that I had just gotten for Christmas. And all of a sudden, I heard a commotion, like a rattling in Otis's cage. And I had left the cage open because I was only 8. And I turned around, and there were just feathers sticking out from both sides of Taz's mouth. And I screamed. My dad looks over. He was cooking. He was making us some lunch, and he just drops the frying pan, runs over, and pries Taz's mouth open. And thankfully, because Taz was such a gigantic dog, it was like the bird had been stuffed into a smaller cage. So the bird came flying right out and went into the Christmas tree. We got him out pretty quickly, and that was definitely my most memorable Christmas. So happy holidays.
Jeez, what a wild and woolly Christmas you had. Did you tell the bird owners what happened? Were you ever asked to watch the bird again? Did this end your pet sitting career? I have so many questions. I think as a child, I would have been traumatized and never wanting to take a chance again. But the fact that you made $50, oh my goodness, that's a fortune for a child. $50, I would have risked a bird's life for that too. But I'm so happy that the bird survived, and not only, but it thrived in its new home of your Christmas tree. I think it's so funny that it flew in the Christmas tree. It reminds me of one of my other favorite Christmas movies, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, when that squirrel is stuck in the tree and comes flying out. So funny. I love a kooky Christmas animal story. So along with your bad movie experiences on Christmas, Lucane dear, I want to hear about your kooky Christmas animals. Let me know. Thank you so much. And, you'll have to call in again and let us know if that ruined your pet sitting abilities. But thank goodness Otis the bird and Taz the dog were both safe. Okay, we've got one more call and an elf mail.
Hi, Luce. My name's Eric. First off, I just want to say thank you so much for making such an incredible show for all of us who love Christmas so much. I wanted to get your thoughts. I was wondering what your thoughts were because, you so often focus in the podcast on the positive elements of Christmas, and I think that's great. I love Christmas too. But I think it's important to discuss some of the more, I guess, the tougher issues, right? So I was wondering how you feel about the way in which over the last couple thousand years, the Santa's Workshop has continuously busted the union formation attempts by the elves. I think it's a really important issue, especially today as unionization is becoming, more and more prevalent in the news. And I think Santa's Workshop and the elves there, who are really just trying to make a living for themselves and their families, have been, trying to unionize in a super specialized kind of area, I guess, for a long time. So it'd be really great to hear your thoughts on this. Thanks again for all the work you do on the podcast, and looking forward to 5 more years of the show. All right, take care.
Wow, Eric, hello again. Normally I wouldn't play 3 messages from one of the Lucane deer in one episode, but I gotta say each one of these was really original, really interesting. And again, I just want to encourage you to hold on to some of these stories, so that we can spread them out and enjoy them on future episodes. But listen, I can tell you're a big fan, and I really appreciate all your support and you spreading the word. And this issue that you brought up of unionizing in the North Pole is really important to me, and it's an issue that matters a lot. And I just want you and all the listeners to know that I stand in solidarity with every elf and every supernatural toy maker. I believe really strongly in unions. I think they would make a huge difference in every workplace, not just magical workplaces, but non-magical ones as well. And as a lover of Christmas, I gotta say, it does break my heart that the North Pole isn't as perfect as I always imagined it was growing up. I know there's a lot of demands on Santa, a lot of pressure. He has a lot of people looking to him, to make their Christmas special. And I get that must be a lot of tension that I can't relate to. But come on, you're right. These elves need to make a living wage. And yes, I know that Santa is a figure dating back to the 4th century. He's used to doing things a little differently. He's from a different time. I get it. But we do have to put pressure on him to get with the modern times. I get if you're older and you're not used to doing things this way, but if you're going to continue to operate in our modern society, you do have to operate within modern norms. And that's just how it is, So we have to put a little bit of pressure on him to get with the times, to create a more hospitable working environment for the elves and, get them up to a $15 minimum wage at the very least $15 an hour for all the workers of the North Pole, all the poles, everywhere, $15 an hour. So thank you so much for your passion on this topic, Eric. And listeners, if you care about this issue like me and Eric do, please, I put a link in the show notes to a petition you can sign to demand unionization at the North Pole. All right. We got one elf mail this week, which, considering how many calls we got, Eric could have made some of those letters. But that's okay. I'm excited for this one. Let's read it now. Hello. Here is a Christmas tale. So growing up, my siblings and I were each given Christmas decorations as presents from our Uncle Chris. My two sisters and my brother were each given beautiful handcrafted nutcrackers, and I was given 2 Christmas-themed troll dolls. Everyone in my family hates them, so my mom mailed them to me a few years ago because she didn't even want them in her house. To be clear, I love them, but my old roommates also hated them, and my boyfriend, who I live with now, thinks they're going to murder him. But I don't think they would ever hurt me because I love them so much. Quick sidebar, the Uncle Chris who gave me these trolls did go missing 20 years ago, and his mom, my great aunt, was murdered and left decapitated in the woods. Her murder is still a cold case. But I don't think my trolls are to blame. Merry Christmas, Ellie. Oh boy, that was a frightening tale for Christmas time, Ellie. Wowie zowie. And she included one of the most disturbing pictures I've ever seen of these Christmas trolls. So I will throw that up on the Instagram to haunt your dreams and scare away all of the sugar plums. I hope that there is some developments in your great aunt's case. I hope that your Uncle Chris shows up again. I mean, you're very blasé about it, and I really appreciate that, that wasn't the focus of your letter, and the focus is Christmas and these Christmas trolls, but I gotta say I'm a little worried. And, I want to encourage you, if you have any information that you're holding back, to, go to the proper authorities with it. Otherwise, I just want you to know that I love and appreciate your Christmas trolls too. I don't wish any type of curse upon myself nor my home, and I honor them, and if there's any kind of gift I can get them to make them happy, I will do that. So feel free to write back in. Let me know how I can appease your trolls. Lucene dear, if you have a Christmas story, memory, any Christmas recommendations, Christmas questions that you want to share with me or any of your fellow Lucene dear, please call the Hot Chocolate Hotline at 802-532-3323. Or you can write us an ELFmail at itsalwayschristmaspodcast@gmail.com. If you love It's Always Christmas, please subscribe at patreon.com It's Always Christmas. Or you can make a one-time donation by clicking the link at the bottom of the show notes. This episode of It's Always Christmas was performed by me, Luce Tomlin-Brenner, and the editing, theme music, and sound design is by Pete Burns. Thanks, Pete. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at LTB Comedy and Pete at Mittenberries. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and write us a little review so that other like-minded elves can find us. We are also on the NPR One app. So subscribe to us there and tell Ira Glass how much you love us. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of It's Always Christmas, and come back next time, unless you got pranked too hard on April Fool's Day.